I never thought I'd be that girl, the one who finds out her fiancé is sleeping with someone else. But even in my worst nightmares, I never imagined he'd be sleeping with my stepmother. My name is Natalie. I'm 27. His name is Liam. He's 28. And her name is Brenda, my stepmother, 49 years old. She married my dad when I was 16. Liam and I met in college. He was in his sophomore year, I was a freshman. We lived 2 dorms apart. He offered me a ride home for winter break once. We found out our parents lived only 20 minutes apart. One car ride turned into a friendship. Friendship turned into love. We dated through college. After graduation, we both landed great jobs near our hometown, moved in together, and spent the next 3 years building a life. He proposed last fall. It was perfect. Simple. Just us. I cried, of course. We told our families. Mine welcomed him with open arms, my dad especially liked him. Brenda too. Almost too much. At first I thought she was just being friendly. Supportive. I saw them texting occasionally. She claimed it was about the engagement party or my dad's birthday. I wanted to believe that. Then there was the time Liam left his phone out while showering and a text came in from her. I answered it. She immediately went cold when she heard my voice. She said she was just confirming dinner plans for my mom's birthday. I bought it. I feel so stupid now. The day I found out, it felt like any other Thursday. Liam had the day off. He made breakfast for both of us. Kissed me on the cheek when I left for work. But halfway into my morning, I realized I left a folder at home, one I needed for a client meeting that afternoon. I didn't text him. Figured I'd just swing by and grab it. His car was in the lot. I thought nothing of it. But there was another car too, one that looked eerily familiar. Brenda's. Still didn't click. Not until I walked into the apartment. There was a trail of clothes. His shirt. A bra that wasn't mine. I froze. Moaning. Soft, rhythmic. My ears rang. My breath disappeared. Then I moved. Like something had taken over my body. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Followed the trail down the hall. The bedroom door was open. I stood there for a second, watching. Then I flipped on the light. And everything inside me died. There was Liam. There was Brenda. Naked. Tangled. Stunned. He jumped. She gasped. I kept the camera steady. He scrambled for the towel, yelling, "Natalie, what the hell are you doing?" I didn't speak. Just kept recording. Then I looked straight at her. "You have anything to say to your daughter?" "Nothing." I turned to Liam. "Anything to say to your fiancé?" Still silence. Then he lunged. Tried to grab the phone. I warned him. He didn't listen. So I punched him hard. He slammed into the doorframe and hit the ground. Brenda screamed. I stared at her. "Concerned about your little toy now? Or are you just embarrassed I caught you in your 40s acting like a goddamn teenager?" I stepped back into the hallway. "I just came home to grab a file," I told them. "When I get back from work, if either of you are still here, this video goes to everyone. Your coworkers. My dad. Facebook. The entire world." Liam groaned, still dazed. Brenda looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I looked right at her as I left. "You're not my stepmother anymore. You're just another woman who ruined her own life for cheap thrills." I got in the car. My hands were shaking. My boss called, wondering where I was. I told her I was on my way. When I handed her the file, she blinked. "Natalie, you okay?" I just said, "I'm fine." But when she saw the blood on my hand, his blood, I broke. I showed her the video. She watched it in silence. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Then she offered me time off. I refused. Because if I didn't keep moving, I'd collapse. The meeting went fine. Somehow. I smiled. I nodded. I played the part. But when I got home, I collapsed. Alone. In the bed where they had been just hours before. I barely slept that night. The image of them, Liam and Brenda, burned into my brain. Every time I closed my eyes, it was there. Like a virus. The next morning, I did what I'd been dreading. I tried calling my mother. I wanted to tell her in person, gently, face to face. She deserved that much. She'd always been good to me. Not perfect, but solid. But my calls didn't go through. At first, I thought maybe she was busy. But after 7 calls and no response, I knew something was wrong. So I drove over. Her car was in the driveway. The porch light was still on, even though it was daylight. A bad sign. I parked and sat in my car, rehearsing the words in my head. Mom, I'm sorry to say this, but Brenda, she's been sleeping with Liam. I caught them. I have video. This isn't a rumor, it's real. I need you to believe me. I took a breath and stepped out of the car. And that's when the front door slammed open. My mother stood there, arms crossed, face twisted in rage. How dare you show up here after what you did? I blinked. What I did? You hit Brenda. She's bruised. You knocked Liam unconscious. And for what? An argument. My mouth went dry. What the hell are you talking about? Liam told me everything, she snapped. You were screaming at him. Brenda stepped in to calm you down and you attacked her. Your father told me he had to pull you off them. My stomach turned. He told you what? That you've been unstable for weeks. Paranoid. Accusing them of things that aren't true. Brenda was trying to help you. She actually said that. She said Brenda, the woman who betrayed both me and my father, was trying to help. I laughed. Not out of humor, out of disbelief. Okay, I said. Then watch this. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the video, and hit play. I didn't say a word. Just held the screen up as she watched. She gasped when the light flipped on. She saw them naked. Tangled in my sheets. Liam scrambling. Brenda frozen. She said nothing. Her face turned pale. When the video ended, I put my phone back in my pocket. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then, finally, she whispered, I didn't know. No, I said coldly. You didn't want to know. You picked her. You picked them. Over me. Natalie, Save it. Tears welled up in her eyes. I thought you were lying, she said. I was scared. You weren't scared, I snapped. You were comfortable. You believed the easier story because it let you ignore the truth. I turned toward my car. Natalie, please. I stopped. Looked back over my shoulder. Don't call me your daughter again. You lost that right. Then I left. I don't remember the drive home. I think I was numb. But when I walked through my apartment door, I knew what I had to do. I grabbed every single thing that reminded me of Liam, every shirt, every book, every damn coffee mug. I boxed it all up and stacked it by the front door. Then I did the same with anything from Brenda. Photos. Gifts. Her stupid welcome to the family bracelet. Gone. I texted Brenda's number with a simple message. Your stuff's by the door. You have 24 hours. After that, it's in the dumpster. She didn't respond. I didn't care. Because I was already planning the next step. Get out. Burn it all behind me. And start over. I wasn't just walking away from Liam. I was walking away from my entire family. When the apartment finally emptied, it felt like I was living in a haunted house. Everything reminded me of them. The kitchen where we used to cook. The couch where we used to fall asleep watching movies. The bed where she betrayed me. I couldn't stay. So I called an old college friend, one of the few people I still trusted. Her name's Tara. We hadn't talked in months, not because anything was wrong, just life drifting us apart. But when I told her everything, she didn't hesitate. You need out, she said. I know someone. A real estate agent. She helped me find my last place. 3 days later, I was looking at a listing. A renovated cabin tucked near a wooded lake. It was quiet. Clean. Untouched. Perfect. I signed the lease without even visiting in person. I didn't need to. I just needed gone. Moving was easy, emotionally at least. Physically? Not so much. I threw most of my things away. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Every item in that apartment carried fingerprints of betrayal. If healing meant letting go, I was going to let everything go. The cabin smelled like cedar and rain when I walked in. The floors creaked in a comforting way. The windows looked out into endless trees. It was a blank page. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe I could breathe. I didn't tell anyone where I went. Not my mother. Not Liam. Not even my boss. Only Tara knew. That's it. I disconnected everything. Changed my number. Deleted old social media. Cut the line clean. I wanted no breadcrumbs. But silence has a way of screaming. Every night felt too quiet. Every meal too lonely. I'd sit on the porch with a drink, watching stars through the branches, wondering if I was healing or just hiding. I started therapy. Found a local counselor, someone Tara recommended. Her name is Erica, and in our first session she didn't say much. Just listened. I told her about the video. About Brenda. About Liam. About my mother's voice full of venom before she ever asked me what really happened. Erica didn't give advice. Not yet. She just said one thing before I left. Natalie, you've been surviving. That's heroic. But you don't have to stay in survival mode forever. That stuck with me. So I started writing again. I hadn't written anything since college. Just private stuff, journals, unsent letters, things I wouldn't dare say out loud. It helped. I even started cooking again. Just for me. One night I made Liam's favorite dish, just to prove I could eat it and not fall apart. I didn't. I even enjoyed it. The ghost of him still lingered, sure. But it didn't haunt me like it used to. That was the night I heard from him again. Not a call. Not a text. An email. Subject line. You don't have to respond. Just read. I nearly deleted it on sight. But curiosity, it's a hell of a thing. I opened it. Inside was a single paragraph. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I didn't just lose you. I lost who I was when I was with you. You were the only good thing I ever had. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just hope you're okay. I stared at the screen. Not sad. Not angry. Just blank. I didn't reply. I won't. Because healing doesn't mean reopening the wound. It means walking past it quietly until one day you don't even remember the pain. It had been almost a month since I moved to the cabin when the call came in. Blocked number. I let it ring. Whoever it was left a voicemail. I waited hours before checking it. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid of hearing his voice again. Or hers. Or some guilt-laced plea from a friend who hadn't bothered to reach out until now. But it wasn't any of them. It was my mother. Her voice was thin, fragile, the kind of sound that makes your stomach turn before you even hear the words. Natalie, it's me. I saw the video. I should have listened to you. I'm so sorry. She paused. Then added. I don't expect you to call me back. I just needed you to know. Brenda's gone. I told her to leave. And Liam? I never want to hear his name again. You were right. You were always right. And I was a coward. She exhaled, shaky and slow. I hope you're okay. Wherever you are. I hope you're safe. I love you. Then she hung up. No tears. No begging. Just that. I listened twice. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage. Not forgiveness either. But something in between. She believed the worst of me. Let Brenda lie to her. Let Liam poison her view of her own daughter. But maybe, just maybe, the truth had finally cut through. I didn't call her back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I didn't delete the message either. That night, I sat by the fireplace with my laptop. I opened a new document, wrote, I am not a reflection of what they did to me. Then I hit save. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I was at the local grocery store, the only one within 20 miles, and I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Tara. Not my friend Tara, a different Tara. From high school. We weren't close back then, but we'd had a few classes together. She looked at me twice before realizing who I was. Natalie? She asked. I froze. Then nodded. She didn't mention the story. Didn't ask about Liam. Didn't bring up Brenda. She just smiled and said, You look different. Stronger. We talked for 10 minutes by the dairy aisle. About nothing, really. Work. The weather. Small town stuff. But when I left, I realized something. The world hadn't stopped spinning because of my pain. Life had kept going. And somehow, I was still in it. Back at the cabin, I lit a candle. My therapist had suggested small rituals. Little symbols of peace, she called them. I'd laughed at first. But that night it felt right. I made tea. I wrote another page in my journal. I even played a song I used to love before Liam ruined it. And for once, I didn't cry when it started. I sang along. Softly. Imperfectly. But I sang. I didn't plan to see Brenda again. I hadn't said her name in weeks. She didn't exist to me, not as a person, not even as a memory I cared to carry. But the universe has a twisted sense of humor. It was a Wednesday, cold and gray. I'd driven into the next town to pick up supplies, paint, screws, sandpaper. I'd decided to build a small bookshelf. Therapy had me chasing projects with purpose. I walked out of the hardware store and stopped dead in my tracks. There she was. Brenda. Standing in the parking lot, wearing oversized sunglasses and clutching a takeout bag, like she belonged in that ordinary world. She saw me. I saw her. And everything slowed. She froze. I didn't. I kept walking past her toward my car. But then I heard her voice behind me. Natalie, wait. I stopped, my hand on the driver's door. Not because I wanted to. But because I deserved to say the final word. I turned around. She had taken off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, tired. Her face looked hollow. I didn't know you lived around here, she said softly. I stared at her. I don't. She nodded. I'm not going to make excuses, she added quickly. I've already made enough of those for a lifetime. You think I care why you did it? I asked, voice calm. You think there's a version of this where any of it makes sense? She looked down. No. I don't. Silence stretched between us. Then she said something I didn't expect. I ruined everything. I ruined you. I know that. I stepped closer. No, Brenda. You didn't ruin me. You ruined you. You took everything good about your marriage, your stepdaughter, your family, and torched it. I walked away from the flames. You're still standing in them. She started to cry. I didn't flinch. I don't want forgiveness, she said. I just wanted to say it. To your face. I'm sorry. I let her words hang in the air. I'm not the same girl you met 10 years ago, I said. You might have thought I was quiet. Soft. Easy to manipulate. But you were wrong. She nodded. I know. Good. I opened my car door, stepped in, and closed it gently. Then I rolled the window down just enough to speak. Brenda, I said, meeting her eyes, you don't get to speak to me again. Ever. This was your one shot. Use it to sleep better if you can. But I'm done. And with that, I drove away. No tears. No shaking hands. No regret. Just quiet. Powerful, final, quiet. Back at the cabin, I built the bookshelf. It wasn't perfect. One shelf tilted slightly. But I left it that way. It reminded me that some things don't have to be flawless to be finished. I used to think healing came with an ending, like in the movies. You'd cry, rage, confront the villain, and then peace. A clean break. A fade out. A fresh start. But real life? It's messier than that. There's no music cue. No final scene. Just time. And silence. And 1,000 small choices you have to make when no one is watching. Like choosing not to check Liam's social media, even though I still remember his handle. Or not rereading his email. Or deleting it for good. I did that last night. Hit delete. Emptied the trash. Gone. It didn't feel like triumph. It felt like grief. Because for all the pain he caused me, there was still a part of me, buried somewhere deep, that had loved him. Truly. Completely. That part of me wasn't stupid. She was hopeful. And she deserved to be mourned. So I wrote her a letter. Not to Liam. To her, the version of myself that had believed in the future we were supposed to have. Dear Natalie. You tried. You loved someone who didn't deserve you. You believed people who were supposed to protect you. You weren't weak. You were brave. You bet on love and it let you down. But you're not broken. You're evolving. I know it hurts. I know it's unfair. But that doesn't mean it defines you. Let go of the ending you thought you'd have. It's not coming. And that's okay. Because something else is. Something better. Love. Me. I folded the letter, tucked it into the journal, and closed the cover. No more pages for Liam. No more space for betrayal. The next day, I painted the last wall in the cabin. A pale green, soft and calming. I bought new curtains. Rearranged the furniture. Hung up a photo of me and Tara at graduation. My real family. I even started applying for new roles, not because I hated my job, but because I finally felt like I could dream again. Maybe a new city. Maybe a new career. Maybe someone new. No rush. No pressure. But the door wasn't locked anymore. And then one morning I got a letter in the mail. A real letter. From my mom. It was short. Natalie. I understand why you haven't called. I don't expect you to. I've made a lot of mistakes. But I'm working on them. I'm in therapy too. You don't have to forgive me. I just want you to know I never stopped loving you. I'm proud of you. Always. Mom. I didn't cry. But I did feel something shift. I don't know if we'll speak again. I'm not sure I want to. But maybe someday. For now it was enough. I stood on the porch that night and realized the air didn't hurt anymore. The cabin didn't feel like exile. It felt like mine. This wasn't the ending I imagined. But it was mine. And I was ready to live it. It came on a Wednesday. The day had been uneventful: laundry, emails, dishes, the usual background noise of a healing life. I was folding towels when my phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. I almost didn't check it. But curiosity still lives in the bones of survivors. Hey. It's Josh. Liam's brother. I know this might be weird, but could we talk? My stomach dropped. Josh. I hadn't thought about him in months. He and I were never close, but he was always kind, the quiet, steady one of Liam's family. He'd texted me after the breakup once. I never answered. And now this. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed. Why? The reply came fast. Because I didn't know. And I should've. I just want 5 minutes. Not about Liam. Just about you. I surprised myself by saying yes. We met at a small cafe the next town over. Public. Safe. Neutral. When I walked in, he was already seated by the window, fidgeting with his coffee sleeve. He looked nervous, like a man walking into a courtroom, not a coffee shop. He stood when he saw me. Hi, Natalie. Hi. We sat. The silence stretched a bit longer than comfortable. Then he spoke. I owe you an apology. For not reaching out. For not calling you. For believing the version of the story Liam fed us. I raised an eyebrow. He told you what happened? Josh sighed. He told us you hit him. That you were paranoid. That you accused Brenda of something that never happened. My mom believed him. So did I. And now? He looked me straight in the eyes. Then someone at his old office sent me the video. My heart skipped. I didn't even want to watch it, he continued. But I did. And then I got sick. Literally sick. I had to pull over on the side of the road. He rubbed his temples. I couldn't believe it. Not just what he did, but how cold it was. You were supposed to be his future. I didn't speak. I let him say what he came to say. I cut him off, Josh said. I haven't spoken to him since January. And I don't plan to. Why now? I finally asked. Why reach out? He swallowed. Because I saw you walk out of that like a warrior. Everyone else fell apart, but you disappeared. You didn't scream, didn't drag anyone through the mud. You just left. And you rebuilt. I looked away, suddenly uncomfortable. Praise always felt heavy. Josh continued, I just wanted to say I see you. And I'm sorry for not seeing you sooner. The sincerity in his voice was unexpected. Steady. Real. Thank you, I said quietly. He nodded. We didn't talk much more. 15 minutes maybe. We parted without hugs, no promises to stay in touch. Just mutual acknowledgement. A simple truth passed between two people caught in the blast radius of someone else's destruction. I drove back to the cabin feeling lighter. Not because anything had changed, but because sometimes the past doesn't come knocking to drag you back. Sometimes it just wants to say goodbye. It always happens when you least expect it. I was outside that day planting lavender by the front porch. The soil was stubborn, the sun too bright, but I didn't mind. I liked the feeling of dirt on my hands. It made me feel grounded. Present. Then my phone lit up. Unknown number. No caller ID. My heart skipped, but I answered. Old habits die slow. Hello? Silence. Then. Natalie? It was him. Liam. I didn't speak. I didn't hang up. I just stood there, frozen again, but not with fear. Not with heartbreak. With disgust. I know you don't want to hear from me, he said quickly. I needed to say something. Please. I stayed silent. He continued. I'm sorry. For all of it. I ruined everything. I ruined you. No, I said sharply, voice steady. You ruined you. I just got caught in the fallout. He went quiet. I could hear him breathing on the other end, shallow and uncertain. I'm not with Brenda anymore, he said. I don't care. She moved out months ago. I still don't care. He tried to gather his thoughts. I think about what we had every day. I miss you. That was the wrong thing to say. Liam, I said coldly, you miss the version of me who trusted you. Who loved you. That girl is gone. You don't even know the woman I've become. I want to, he said. I laughed. It was sharp, short, almost cruel. No, you don't. Because the woman I am now would never choose you. He didn't respond. I imagined him sitting alone somewhere, spinning this call into some kind of redemption arc. But this wasn't a story. This was my life. And he didn't belong in it anymore. I'm hanging up now, I said. And if you ever try to contact me again, I'll block every number, every email, every attempt. Nat. Click. I set the phone down on the porch step and stared at the sky. I expected to feel shaken, triggered, maybe even tempted. But instead, I felt free. That was the last thread. The final ghost. And I'd severed it without flinching. I walked back inside, washed the dirt from my hands, and poured a glass of wine. Then I did something symbolic. I grabbed my phone, opened the contacts list, found the number that had just called, and labeled it Ghost. Then I blocked it. Forever. That night I slept deeper than I had in months. There were no dreams. No memories. No ghosts. Only peace. I stopped counting the days since it all fell apart. There was no finish line, no calendar milestone that marked the end of my grief. One day I just woke up, and I wasn't thinking about them anymore. Not Liam. Not Brenda. Not even my mother. I didn't forgive. I didn't forget. I simply moved past. The lavender by the porch bloomed early that spring. The bookshelf I'd built still leaned slightly to the right, but it now held 10 books, all novels I'd promised to read for years and never made time for. Now I read every night before bed. Somewhere along the way, I started sketching again. Not for anyone else, just for me. On paper. On napkins. On the walls of the shed behind the cabin. It felt like pulling pieces of myself back from a long, deep silence. Then came the first job offer. A design firm, remote work, saw my updated portfolio and wanted me on a freelance basis. It wasn't what I used to do. But it was better. Because it was mine. I said yes without hesitation. The woman I used to be would have agonized. What if it's not stable? What if it doesn't pay enough? What if I fail? The woman I am now? She knows she can survive anything. Tara came up for the weekend. We drank wine on the porch and talked late into the night, not about what happened, but about what could come next. She looked at me across the table and said, "You're glowing." I laughed. "That's the wine." "No," she smiled. "That's freedom." I let that sit. Because she was right. I'd started to build a life that wasn't based on escape, or defense, or survival. It was mine. All mine. I opened a savings account labeled Future Dreams. I didn't know what it was for, maybe a trip, maybe a studio, maybe just peace of mind. But each deposit felt like a declaration. I'm still here. I still matter. I still believe in something better. I thought about dating again once or twice. Even downloaded an app. I never opened it. Not because I'm afraid. But because for once I don't feel empty alone. I feel full. Quietly. Beautifully. I light candles now not for therapy, but because I like how the room feels with a warm glow. I talk to the deer that wander behind the cabin. I bake even when I'm the only one to eat it. I dance to music in my socks. Badly. I'm not healed. But I'm healing. Not because of time. But because of choice. The choice to stop chasing closure. The choice to define myself beyond betrayal. The choice to love who I am becoming. And the most beautiful part? I didn't just survive. I saved myself. It's funny how quiet a victory can be. There's no crowd. No applause. No finish line to break. Just a sunrise, a hot cup of coffee, and the realization that you made it. Not all the way. But far enough to see the road ahead, not as something you dread, but something you welcome. This morning I sat on the porch wrapped in a sweater Liam never knew I owned. The birds were louder than usual. Or maybe I was just finally listening. My phone buzzed. Not with a message. Just a notification from my new calendar app. Creative retreat application deadline, our days left. 3 months ago I'd bookmarked the site. A women's art collective was hosting a 6-week residency in coastal Maine. Ocean air, studio space, no distractions. I didn't think I'd apply. Who was I to believe I deserved a retreat? But that voice, the one that used to whisper doubts, has grown quieter lately. I opened my laptop. Pulled up the application. Typed with trembling hands. Name Natalie. Occupation artist. Statement of purpose. I paused here. And then I wrote. I thought this was the story of a girl who lost everything. But it's actually the story of a woman who finally found herself. I want to create from that space. From that strength. I don't need to run anymore. I want to build. I hit send. I exhaled. And then I smiled. A real one. No performance. No bitterness. No walls. Just peace. The cabin creaked in the wind like it was proud of me. My bookshelf leaned a little more. I didn't care. I poured a second cup of coffee and sat in the sun. And in that moment I realized something important. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering differently. Liam's betrayal doesn't define me. Brenda's cruelty doesn't own me. My mother's silence doesn't cage me. Because I define me. I'm Natalie. I'm not what happened to me. I'm what I chose after. And I choose joy. I choose art. I choose peace. I choose me. So if you're reading this, if you've been through hell and wonder if there's a way out, let me say this loud and clear. You are not broken. You are becoming. And your story isn't over. Not even close.